Laughter echoed through the Arcturian halls as 35-year-old Sean Henry exited the shuttle onto Zeta Prime Station, rage building in his chest at the aliens' mockery of him and his fellow humans. Sean clenched his fists at his sides, glaring at the whispering, snickering 7-foot-tall lizard-like Arcturians with their shimmering rainbow scales and unblinking amber eyes. He and the other human diplomats, led by stiff-lipped Ambassador David Pearson, had voyaged across the stars to establish relations with the technologically advanced Arcturians, but the Arcturians clearly still saw humans as a joke, a backwater species to scoff at. Hector, the Arcturian official greeting them, sneered down his snout at the human delegation as he led them to their quarters. "Your species' feeble ships are a millennium behind ours, and you still kill each other over lines in the dirt on your planet," Hector scoffed. "You have nothing of value to offer us." Sean gritted his teeth, his face reddening. As a former Marine, he was used to confronting threats head-on, but Pearson had ordered him to stand down to avoid an incident. Humanity's survival depended on securing Arcturian technology and support against the merciless Svenglish Empire sweeping across the galaxy, conquering or exterminating everything in its path. One wrong move could doom the human race. Suddenly alarms blared through the station. Hector's eyes widened, and he sprinted off without a word, locking the humans in their quarters. Sean had a gut feeling that something was very wrong. Ignoring Pearson's objections, he silently hacked the door lock and slipped out into the chaotic alien hall, determined to discover what the Arcturians were hiding from them. He knew he might be humanity's only hope. Sean crept through the Arcturian space station's dim halls, trailing Hector from the shadows while keeping his footsteps silent, relying on the stealth skills ingrained in him as a Marine. The rainbow-scaled alien strutted with a pompous air, but tension radiated from his stiff spine as he spoke in hushed tones to a holographic projection of another Arcturian floating beside him. "Captain Zorn, report," Hector snapped. "What's the status of the containment breach in the biolab?" The hologram of Captain Zorn flickered, his unblinking amber eyes filled with fear. "Sir, the Karesh specimens have broken free from their enclosures. They're swarming the lower decks now. Several of my soldiers have already fallen to their venomous fangs and acid spit." Hector hissed a curse, his forked tongue flicking out. "Those disgusting centipede monsters! I warned the scientist that studying them was too dangerous." Sean's heart pounded against his ribs as he absorbed the dire situation, picturing meter-long insectoid horrors skittering through the station's corridors, attacking everyone in their path. He had to warn Ambassador Pearson and the other humans before it was too late. "What about those humans on board? Do they know?" Zorn asked. "No, and they won't find out," Hector growled. "The last thing we need is those primitives realizing we're vulnerable. As far as they're concerned, this station is a paradise, a shining example of Arcturian superiority. We must maintain that illusion at all costs." Sean clenched his jaw, barely containing his outrage at Hector's deception. Slipping away down a side passage, he pulled out his comlink and tried to hail Pearson, but the device only buzzed with static. The Arcturians must have jammed the human communications network. Realizing he couldn't stand by while everyone on the station was in mortal danger, Sean made a split-second decision. He had to confront Hector himself and force the arrogant alien to accept his help. Taking a deep breath to steel his nerves, Sean stepped out of the shadows directly into Hector and Zorn's path. The two Arcturians froze, their eyes going wide with shock. "You!" Hector snarled, recovering from his surprise and leveling his plasma pistol at Sean's chest. "How did you get out of your quarters, human? I'll shoot you where you stand for interfering in Arcturian affairs." Sean raised his hands in a placating gesture, keeping his voice calm and steady. "I know about the Karesh outbreak, Hector. I overheard everything, but I'm not here to expose your secrets. I want to help you contain those creatures before they slaughter us all." Hector narrowed his eyes, his finger tightening on the pistol's trigger. "And why should I trust you, human? Your kind has nothing to offer us." "Because I have information that could save lives today," Sean replied, unflinching under the plasma pistol's glowing muzzle. "Humans have long experience dealing with invasive species on our homeworld. We know tactics that could stop the Ka-Resh in their tracks. Hector hesitated, then slowly lowered his weapon, suspicion still etched on his scaly face. Fine, I'm listening. But if you're lying... I'm not, Sean said firmly. My people came to this station carrying a secret weapon, one we've used to control vermin outbreaks since ancient times, dogs. But not just any dogs. These are genetically enhanced canine soldiers, bred by our best scientists for maximum strength, speed and predatory instinct. A single pack of them could hunt down and eliminate the Ka-Resh within hours. Hector and Zorn exchanged skeptical looks, but the desperation of the crisis seemed to erode their doubt. The distant screech of Ka-Resh and panicked Arcturian screams echoed through the halls, lending credence to Sean's words. With the clock ticking and Zeta Prime Station descending into chaos, Hector swallowed his pride and jerked his scaly head at Sean. All right, human. We'll try it your way for now. But if your secret weapon fails, I'll hold you personally responsible. Now tell me about these dogs. Jean allowed himself a grim smile as Hector and Zorn listened intently, formulating a plan and preparing to unleash the human hounds of war on their alien adversaries. Jean led Hector and Zorn through the station's winding corridors, his boots clicking against the metal floor with each determined step. The Arcturians trailed behind him, their snouts wrinkled in distaste at the thought of relying on the humans' assistance. They soon arrived at the human delegation's shuttle, where Lieutenant Jake Thompson stood at attention, a large German shepherd sitting obediently by his side. Hector, Zorn, meet Rex, Sean said, gesturing to the dog. He's part of our genetically enhanced K9 unit, bred for combat and tracking. Hector eyed the animal skeptically. And you expect this creature to solve our Ka-Resh problem? Sean nodded. Rex and his team have been instrumental in containing invasive species back on Earth. I believe they can do the same here. As if to prove Sean's point, Rex suddenly perked up, his ears twitching. With a deep bark, he bounded across the shuttle bay, stopping at a supply crate and pawing insistently at its base. Jake hurried over and pried open the crate, revealing a writhing Ka-Resh specimen inside. Zorn gasped, "How did it get in there?" "More importantly, how did your beast know it was there?" Hector demanded. "Rex's senses are far keener than any humans or Arcturians," Sean explained. "He can track the Ka-Resh's scent, even through metal and concrete." Hector's scales rippled with irritation. "And what exactly is your plan, human? To set loose a pack of dogs to rampage through the station?" Sean met Hector's gaze unflinchingly. "I propose we deploy Rex and his team to hunt down and eliminate the Ka-Resh, while your forces focus on securing vital areas and protecting civilians. It's our best chance to contain this outbreak quickly and minimize casualties." Hector hissed in frustration. "You expect me to put the fate of this station in the jaws of mere animals? The Arcturian military is more than capable of handling this situation." "With all due respect," Sean countered, "if that were true, we wouldn't be in this mess. Your people have never faced a threat like the Ka-Resh before, but we have experience dealing with invasive predators on Earth. You need us." Before Hector could retort, a chilling shriek echoed through the shuttle bay. A pack of Ka-Resh burst from the ventilation shafts, their segmented bodies coiling as they lunged at the group. Hector and Zorn stumbled back, fumbling for their weapons, but Rex was already in motion. The German shepherd charged forward, a black and tan blur as he slammed into the lead Ka-Resh, his powerful jaws clamping down on the creature's thorax. The Ka-Resh screeched and thrashed, but Rex held firm, shaking the beast violently until its exoskeleton cracked with a sickening crunch. Sean and Jake leaped into action, drawing their pulse rifles and firing bursts of plasma at the remaining Ka-Resh. Blue-white bolts seared through the creature's chitinous hides, dropping them in smoking heaps. Within seconds, the ambush was over, the shuttle bay floor littered with the twitching carcasses of the Ka-Resh. Hector stared at Rex, his amber eyes wide with grudging respect. Perhaps there is some merit to your plan after all, human." Sean allowed himself a small smirk. "Glad you see it my way. Now let's get the rest of my team and end this, shall we?" Hector nodded curtly and tapped his wrist communicator. Captain Zorn, you are to coordinate with the human forces to eradicate the Ka-Resh. I expect your full cooperation. Zorn's hologram sputtered in protest. But, sir, we can't trust these primitives to— Do not question me, Captain, Hector snapped. The survival of this station is at stake. We will use every resource at our disposal, even if that means accepting help from them. As the call ended, Hector turned to Sean, his gaze hardening. Listen well, human. I am placing a great deal of faith in you and your beasts. If you fail, if the Ka-Resh are not contained— He leaned in close, his forked tongue flicking out menacingly. The consequences for you and your people will be severe. Sean met Hector's stare unflinchingly and gave a curt nod. Understood, but we won't fail, that's a promise. With that, Sean turned on his heel and strode towards the shuttle's armory, Jake and Rex falling into step beside him. There was no time to waste. The hunt was on, and the humans would show the Arcturians exactly what their primitive species was capable of. With the dogs in tow, Sean and Jake stalked through the dimly lit corridors of the Arcturian station, pulse rifles at the ready. The genetically enhanced canines moved with predatory grace, their ears pricked and nostrils flaring as they scanned for any sign of the Ka-Resh. Suddenly Rex froze, a low growl rumbling in his throat. The other dogs followed suit, hackles raised and teeth bared. Sean and Jake tensed, knowing what was coming. A skittering sound echoed from the shadows, growing louder by the second. Then a wave of Ka-Resh burst from the ventilation shafts, their segmented bodies writhing and their mandibles clicking in hunger. The dogs leaped into action, a blur of fur and fangs as they tore into the alien centipedes. Rex led the charge, his powerful jaws crushing through chitinous exoskeletons like paper. Sean and Jake opened fire, plasma bolts searing through the air and incinerating any Ka-Resh that managed to slip past the dogs. As the battle raged, Hector's voice crackled over the comms. We're sealing off the infested sections and evacuating civilians. Keep those vermin contained, human. Sean gritted his teeth, blasting a Ka-Resh that had latched onto Rex's flank. We're doing our best, but there's too many of them. It's like they're being controlled somehow. Jake's eyes widened in realization. The Queen. Remember those old Earth movies about hive-minded insects? I bet these things have a queen controlling them, like a central intelligence. Sean nodded grimly. And I think I know where she is. The Central Power Core. It's the most heavily shielded part of the station. Perfect place for a nest. Hector's voice cut in, sharp with anger. The Power Core? That's Arcturian territory, human. We'll handle the Queen ourselves. Sean's jaw clenched. With all due respect, Hector, my team is better equipped for this. We've dealt with this kind of threat before. You dare question my authority on my own station? Hector hissed. I will not let you primitives— A sudden tremor rocked the station, cutting off Hector's tirade. Alarms blared and red lights flashed. Warning, hull breach detected in Section 7B. Emergency containment measures failing. Sean's blood ran cold. Section 7B was only a few corridors away from their position. If the Ka-Resh escaped the station? Hector, forget your damn pride for a second. Sean barked into the comms. We need to seal that breach before the Ka-Resh get out. There was a tense pause. Then Hector's voice came back, tight with reluctance. Agreed, I'm on my way. Don't make me regret this, human. Sean turned to Jake and the dogs. Rex, Athena, hold the line here. Don't let a single Ka-Resh through. Jake, with me. We're going to seal that breach. The two Marines sprinted down the corridor, the sound of Rex's barking and the shrieks of dying Ka-Resh echoing behind them. They rounded a corner to find a gaping hole in the station's hull, the vacuum of space sucking debris and struggling Ka-Resh out into the void. Sean and Jake braced themselves against the bulkheads, fighting the pull of decompression. They spotted the manual override for the emergency blast doors on the other side of the breach, tantalizingly out of reach. Just as despair began to set in, a rainbow-scaled hand reached out and grabbed the override lever. Hector, mag-locked to the floor, strained against the vacuum and pulled with all his strength. The blast doors slammed shut, sealing the breach with a resounding clang. In the sudden silence, Sean and Hector locked eyes, chests heaving with exertion. A grudging respect passed between them. the animosity of their earlier argument temporarily forgotten in the face of their shared victory. But the moment was short-lived. Rex's barking over the comms served as a stark reminder that the battle was far from over. The Ka-Resh Queen still lurked in the heart of the station, and until she was destroyed, the station would never be safe. Sean and Ector shared a determined nod, putting aside their differences for the greater good. They had a queen to dethrone, and the fate of the station hung in the balance. Sean, Ector, Jake, Rex, and the other genetically enhanced dogs raced through the winding metal passages of Zeta Prime Station, boots and paws clanging on the grated floor. Ka-Resh swarmed the cramped halls, hissing and spitting acid. The dogs leaped at the meter-long centipedes without hesitation, powerful jaws snapping through chitin. Pulse rifle fire from the humans flashed in the dim emergency lighting, dropping Ka-Resh left and right. As they neared the central power core, the opposition intensified. Waves of Ka-Resh poured from every vent and access tunnel, threatening to overwhelm them. Rex and the other dogs never slowed, black fur bristling as they charged into the fray with single-minded ferocity. "We're close, I can feel it," Sean growled through gritted teeth, firing shot after shot. "The Queen has to be in there." Ector gave a curt nod, rainbow scale splattered with Ka-Resh gore. "Once we kill her, the drones will be helpless." A bone-chilling shriek cut through the din of battle so loud it vibrated the metal beneath their feet. Sean and Ector exchanged a look. They had found their target. Blasting through the final barricade of Ka-Resh, they entered the cavernous power core chamber and stopped dead. Before them reared a nightmarish behemoth, the Ka-Resh Queen. 20 feet tall, her segmented body pulsed with grotesque egg sacs. Vicious mandibles dripped with steaming venom and cold. Multifaceted eyes glared down at the intruders with malevolent intelligence. All around her seethed her most elite offspring, larger and more heavily armored than the drones outside. "Jesus, we're going to need a bigger gun," Jake muttered. Sean shook his head. "No time, we'll have to improvise." He turned to Ector. "I'll take Rex and the dogs and keep her distracted. You find a way to get behind her and hit her with everything you've got." Ector flashed a predatory grin. "With pleasure." Sean readied his rifle and focused on Rex. "All right, boy, just like we trained. Go for the weak spots. Joints, eyes, anything soft." Rex bared his fangs and let out a commanding bark to the other dogs. As one, they surged forward, a coordinated strike force. Sean and Jake provided covering fire, trying to draw the Queen's attention. It worked. With an ear-splitting screech, the Queen lunged at Sean, stabbing with her venom-tipped forelegs. He rolled aside, feeling the rush of displaced air. Rex leaped for the Queen's throat, but a massive foreclaw swatted him away. All around, the battle raged. Arcturian guards grappled with the elite Ka-Resh drones, plasma blades flashing. Several dogs yelped in pain as venomous fangs found their mark, but they never backed down, harrying the Queen relentlessly. Sean glimpsed Jake smashing a Ka-Resh away from Rex, only to cry out as acidic blood sprayed his face. Sean cursed, but couldn't stop to help his friend. He had to trust Jake would be all right. Ector was a blur of deadly grace, dancing between the Queen's lashing limbs, seeking an opening. Sean knew he had to make one for him. "Rex!" he shouted. "Crisscross!" Instantly, Rex broke away and circled wide. Sean did the same in the opposite direction. The Queen's head swiveled back and forth, trying to track them both. At the last second, they charged straight at her exposed underbelly. The Queen reared up in surprise, and Ector seized his chance. He leaped onto the Queen's back, plasma blade raised high. With a triumphant roar, he stabbed down into her skull, again and again, ichor spraying. But even as the Queen shuddered in her death throes, her tail whipped around in one final spiteful strike. Sean saw it coming, but could only watch in helpless fury as the venomous stinger buried itself in his chest. White-hot agony blazed through him, and he crumpled to the blood-stained floor. The Queen collapsed with a ground-shaking boom, finally still. Around them, the Ka-Resh drones twitched and reeled, their hive mind suddenly severed. Ector leaped from the Queen's back and rushed to Sean's side, but it was already too late. Sean could feel the icy venom flooding his veins, shutting his body down. With the last of his strength, he gripped Hector's arm. Take care of Rex, he gasped out. Don't let this happen again. Learn from our mistakes. Hector's amber eyes shimmered with sorrow and grim respect. I will, Sean Henry, I swear it. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. As darkness claimed him, Sean's final thought was that maybe, just maybe, he had made a difference. In his clash of wills with Hector, perhaps they had sown the seeds of understanding between their species. It was a fragile hope, paid for with blood, but it was worth fighting for. Worth dying for. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.